I'm going to start this series off with the longest and hardest video to make in my opinion, which will be anxiety. But before I start, I am going to say that I'm not trying to sound like I do know every single thing about anxiety. I only know what I've been through and the methods that I used. But I am going to talk about other methods that are used, just so you can get an idea. Most of the information I got for this video I got from beyondblue.org, so I will leave a link to that in the description if you want to check it out yourself. So the different types of anxiety. Not many people actually know that anxiety isn't just one disorder. There are many different types underneath anxiety. So there's social anxiety, separation anxiety, specific anxiety or phobia, OCD, PTSD and panic disorder. There's also GAD, which is generalized anxiety disorder, but that's kind of everything smushed into one. So social phobia is social anxiety, being outside. It's the fear of being judged, being embarrassed by people or criticised for that matter. Social anxiety can stop people from doing simple tasks like going to the shop and buying something, going to eat outside. Separation phobia is when someone is scared to be away from a specific person. Usually it's to be away from parents. The person fears that something may happen to their parents in this scenario, and they'll usually not leave the house or stay over someone else's house for the night. Specific phobia is when you're scared of something, so scared of spiders, scared of certain situations, that type of thing. And the person will go great lengths to avoid this thing or situation. OCD. So most people know what OCD is. It's usually surrounded by germs or something like that, and it makes the person feel like they need to do rituals to prevent this thing from happening, to prevent the anxiety from getting any worse. PTSD is the anxiety from a trauma that had happened in the past, a specific event. So the person that suffers from PTSD will avoid any kind of relation to that event happening again. The person may get flashbacks and may have trouble relaxing at normal times. So a panic disorder is when the person suffers from panic attacks quite regularly over the course of more than a month. And generalized anxiety disorder is when the person feels anxious most days, most of the time in the days, and worries about multiple things throughout the day. Most types of anxiety can actually be treated with counselling, and there are 3 types of therapies that are mainly used. The first is CBT. CBT encourages you to tell a difference between unproductive and productive thoughts. It also teaches you to let go of worries and thoughts that may be affecting you badly. And on top of that, it teaches you to deal with the thing you're struggling with. So solve the problems that you have. CBT is the thing that I had a few months ago, and it's a very fast-paced, hard-working therapy. Mine only lasted for 6 months, but there was so much packed in, and it's amazing how it works. That's my personal opinion. Another therapy you can get is behaviour therapy, which works slightly different to CBT. However, it doesn't try to change the beliefs and thoughts you have against the thing you get anxious about. This therapy actually encourages rewarding the person undergoing behavioural therapy. And this is so that the person gets a different outlook on the situation they fear. And also to try and reverse the cycle of thinking when they try to avoid it. And lastly, there is online therapies or e-therapies. They do follow the same guide as CBT and BT. However, they're online. Hence why they're called e-therapy. I'm going to talk about the option of medication before I go into my experience, so you don't have to sit through my experience to hear all the information. Most GPs will ask the person to try something like Calms before they go on to more serious medication for anxiety. Calms is a sleeping pill that does it naturally. You can buy this in drugstores, you can buy this in like Tesco's, stuff like that. However, they won't work for people that suffer with severe anxiety. I never found them helpful in any case. I took like 4 at a time and they didn't do anything, but just try it if you think it might help. Antidepressants are actually used for anxiety because they follow the same way of changing how your brain thinks. However, they do have side effects. Most people know what the side effects are, so I won't go into it. And now the drug that is used most frequently in people that suffer from anxiety is called Ben something. However, this is only used for a short amount of time for the patient. It's not a long-term drug to be used. It can become addictive, and because of the nature of the drug, it can reduce alertness in the person, it can affect coordination of your body, and this drug will not be used as the only or first treatment. So if you're taking this drug, the GP would recommend you to go and see a counsellor at the same time. Now, I personally never took any drugs because I was a minor when I started my CBT treatment, so it wasn't really a good thing for me to choose, but they're definitely helpful for people that can make their own decision about what they want to take and people that really can't function without them. Seeing that these videos are actually aimed towards teenagers that are struggling with mental health issues, I thought I'd bring up the point of trying to get parents or friends to understand. This really depends on what type of family and friends you have. I personally had a really understanding family. It took them a while to get used to it and understand what was going on, but eventually it sunk in for them. Now, if you try and talk to these people but they won't listen and they won't understand, you can't really do much but drop them. And I'm not saying drop your family, just drop the friends that think you're making it up or you're exaggerating, or if you need help and you ask them for help, they say no. Don't hang around them anymore because they're not real friends. And with family, if they won't understand, you just need to keep trying. Don't go at them with it aggressively. Try and get some facts on paper, try and get them to read it and go through it, send them a few links. Try and get them to understand it in their point of view, not yours. Try and get them to connect with it somehow. So yeah, if your family are struggling to understand what you're going through, don't go angry at them. Go relatively calmly. Just walk them through it. I know it's frustrating if they don't understand, but in time they will, and that's all I have to say on that matter. Okay, so my experience. Fun times! I personally didn't realise that I had anxiety until I started my depression treatment. My therapist actually realised I had it about a year or two into my treatment. I struggled with social anxiety, separation anxiety, GAD. What else? It was mainly social anxiety, and I had it for going out on my own. I was completely fine with other people. If I was going out with my mum, I was fine. If I was going out with a friend, I was completely fine, but it was when I was on my own. And I had the belief that people were looking at me and thinking horrible things about me. But it progressed when I got to about year 10, and it just got so much worse. It became crippling. Like, I could not leave the house. I refused to go to school for so many days. I'm amazed that my parents weren't taken to court because they were one step away from it. Like, I'd be sweating on my way to school. I'd feel like I was gonna throw up. like the majority of the day, it was just a horrible, horrible time. And because this was in summer, near exams, every time summer comes around, I still get that feeling. But then I was put on the waiting list for CBT. And that's another thing about CBT. The waiting list may be very, very long. I ended up waiting about a year to be seen. But once I started the actual course, it was amazing. Sorry if the angle changed or anything, my camera died. Of course it did. As I said before, CBT is a very, very, very fast-paced, hard-going therapy. When I first met my therapist, he told me there would be homework, and there sure as hell was, and it wasn't normal homework. You had to go out and do the things that you were scared of, and that was petrifying to do, but it's the way you have to treat a brain that suffers with anxiety, unfortunately. By forcing yourself to do this, you are making your brain change. Because anxiety is the fear of the unknown, the fear of something happening, but you don't actually know it's going to happen. By proving your brain wrong, them times you're actually doing it, it switches. It reverses the effect and the avoidance that you take. I do quickly want to mention ways to distract yourself, because some anxiety does need to be faced. You really do, but that's for sort of like going out, eating out, them sort of things. They're the things you need to do head on, you need to face them. But at times when you're just like, say if I was sitting on the sofa just watching TV and I come over with one random ass wave of anxiety, those are the times when you need to distract yourself, because it's training your brain not to let it in. Things like learning an instrument, learning a new song on an instrument, watching YouTube, drawing, colouring, writing, anything you enjoy doing, something you can actually put all of your effort into, something you enjoy doing. And that's how I got through the majority of my anxiety. So if you're suffering from anxiety and you want to look into the different therapies, I would suggest going for BT or CBT. CBT for those who really want to get rid of anxiety. The ones that just they can't function normally, and that's what anxiety does. You can't live a normal life while you have anxiety. Then go for CBT. It's the most head-on way of getting rid of it. BT is for those that aren't too sure about how they'd react to such a head-on therapy, because it acts in the same way, but it's just a little bit less. And E-therapy for those that physically cannot leave the house to do these types of things. And if you've tried all of these therapies and nothing's changing, or you finished your therapy like me and it's slowly coming back, there are medications out there that can help, but there are obvious precautions you have to take before you actually start the medication. For example, if you go to your GP and ask about it, but you have a history with drug abuse or suicidal thoughts, they won't prescribe it to you because it's too risky. Finally, I do want to say that it's okay to feel like this. Everyone gets anxiety, but some are just unfortunate enough to be burdened with it for it to be called a disorder. So if you feel anxiety on a daily basis, if you have GAD, there's nothing wrong with it. There's really nothing wrong with it. And you can face it. You can get rid of it. There are many ways out there. There are people that really do care. So you can do it. I did it. And I had zero motivation to do anything back then. I did it. I'm fine now. Well, I'm not. I'm really not, but thank you for watching. See you in the next video.